Right now, we're unpacking that newly announced US-Iran ceasefire to figure out exactly what was agreed to and, honestly, more importantly, the massive unresolved disputes that are still simmering just beneath the surface. We've got a lot of fast-moving, high-stakes information to cover today, and as we're going to see, the headlines really only tell a fraction of the story. The Iranian president, Masoud Pezeshkian, really hit the nail on the head with this statement. He says the U.S.-Iran Memorandum of Understanding is an important step towards stopping the fighting, but a final agreement for a lasting truce has yet to take shape. It's basically a pause button, right? The actual diplomatic battle, that's just getting started. To break this all down, we're going to hit 5 key areas today: the ceasefire agreement, navigating conflicting claims, the 60-day window, core nuclear flashpoints, and finally, the stakes for lasting peace. Let's get right into it. Section 1. The ceasefire agreement, a fragile pause. Things are moving unbelievably fast here. We're going straight from a digitally signed initial agreement to end the Gulf War, right into a formal signing ceremony in Geneva this Friday, and Vice President J.D. Vance is heading there to attend. Once that ink actually dries, the forum swings completely open for a 60-day discussion phase. It's an absolute sprint. Now, you have to understand, what they've signed is an initial Memorandum of Understanding, an MOU. The bullets have stopped flying for now, sure, but a permanent truce is still totally pending negotiation. In fact, the specific details of the MOU aren't even fully public yet, so what we're looking at is really just the starting line of this whole thing, definitely not the finish line. Moving on to Section 2, navigating conflicting claims, the information gap. Okay, so here is where we hit a massive disconnect between Washington and Tehran. The information gap is real. On one side, you've got the U.S. claim, with President Trump stating that Iran has already agreed to not have nuclear weapons. But then you flip over to the Iranian claim, and they are insisting that nuclear discussions haven't been settled at all. They say those talks are only going to happen over the next 60 days, and only, literally only, if certain preconditions are met first. And hanging over this entire situation is a pretty massive ultimatum. President Trump put out a stark warning. If Iran does not agree with the nuclear deal, attacks will resume, period. It's a very direct threat, and it establishes exactly how high the stakes are right out of the gate. Which brings us to Section 3, the 60-day window, the ticking clock. 60 days. That's it. That is the incredibly tight 2-month timeframe these negotiators have to somehow resolve conflicts that have spanned years. And that diplomatic clock, it starts ticking the second that formal signing wraps up in Geneva. But Tehran is demanding a very strict sequence of events during this window. For them, it goes like this. Step 1, the U.S. must comply with Iran's preconditions. Step 2, only then will Iran come to the negotiating table. And Step 3, that is when formal discussions on nuclear capabilities can actually begin. So they're making it crystal clear they aren't skipping straight to the end. All right, Section 4, core nuclear flashpoints, the deep ice. Underneath this ceasefire is a massive ideological clash, and at the absolute center of it is uranium enrichment. Washington looks at this as a dangerous red line requiring strict limits. Tehran, on the other hand, views maintaining nuclear capabilities as their sovereign right. It's just a direct, head-on collision of national interests. So that leads us to the multi-billion-dollar question, right? What exactly happens to the highly enriched uranium stockpiles? Will those existing physical stockpiles be handed over to the United States? Or will they remain sitting right there within Iran's borders? Figuring out the future of those exact stocks is going to be a central debate over these next 2 months. And complicating all of this is a huge trust deficit. Both sides are basically demanding the other prove their commitment before anyone makes a move. The U.S. demands cold, hard, verifiable compliance from Iran. On the exact opposite side, Iran demands strict, ironclad guarantees on sanctions relief. It's a total stalemate. Neither side wants to jump without a safety net. Take international inspections, for example. This is a totally central piece to any viable deal. Well, J.D. Vance states that international monitors are returning to Iran. But on the flip side, Iran is incredibly reluctant and actively opposes this move. So the gap between the U.S. position and the Iranian position on this issue is just incredibly wide right now. Finally, Section 5, stakes for lasting peace, the bottom line. Look, while a ceasefire reduces tensions, and it's a huge relief, it does not end the nuclear dispute. Stopping the immediate attacks was only the surface level of the agreement. As we've seen, those nuclear talks, they remain the absolute hardest challenge ahead. the heavy lifting is still sitting right there on the negotiating table. Because the binary outcome here could not be more severe. If this is a success, it stabilizes the region and secures lasting peace. But failure? That triggers a totally new crisis and the direct resumption of the war. There really isn't much middle ground. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final, critical question to chew on as the diplomatic clock starts ticking. Will the next 60 days truly untangle the nuclear dispute? Or is this really just a countdown to a renewed, maybe even more severe crisis? We're all going to be watching this very, very closely. Thanks for joining me today, and keep your eyes on how these talks unfold.